Long ago in a distant land, I, Aku, the shape-shifting master of darkness, unleashed an unspeakable evil. But a foolish samurai warrior wielding a magic sword stepped forth to oppose me. Before the final blow was struck, I tore open a portal in time and flung him into the future, where my evil is law. Now the fool seeks to return to the past and undo the future that is Aku.
So, I just wanted to quickly get some thoughts out on the new Samurai Jack game that launched last week, as I haven't really seen a whole lot of coverage about it anywhere, to be honest. Which I guess is to be expected of a, budget license title nowadays. But I do feel like it's at least something that's worth talking about, even if just a little briefly. So the story is a bit of an extended ending to the show, taking place just as Jack and Ashi are traveling back to the past to defeat Aku. However, in the middle of this, Aku makes one last-ditch attempt to stop Jack, throwing him into various times and locations from the show. Essentially, this means that the game acts as a sort of greatest hits of Samurai Jack, as you fight various familiar enemies and familiar environments with the game, which the game does a decent job of replicating the look of the show, even if some locations and characters do look a bit odd from certain angles that they kinda really weren't designed to be seen from. Speaking of the characters, it is actually really great to hear so many of the familiar voices just pop up here and there throughout the game, even if their dialogue is kind of mostly relegated to an "Oi, laddie!" or something to that effect, really. You might hear maybe 1-2 lines of dialogue from any given character, and it's just kind of... It's cool that they're there, but at the same time, it's like, I wish there was more. However, as for the more important aspect of the game itself, the gameplay itself is honestly pretty good. It's pretty comparable to the 3D Ninja Gaiden games, or the Sigma Blood Edge games, if you want to refer to them that way. But Jack moves around with a sense of momentum that's got a bit of weight to it, but not as tied down as, say, Ryu Hayabusa was in his games. The only real complaint is that a lot of his moves one of my little complaints is that a lot of the unlockable moves so far have all been things that feel like they should have been part of the base move set, but at the same time you kind of quickly learn to live. At the same time, you kind of quickly learn to get along with what moves you have access to from the start and going forward. Although, speaking of Jack's moveset, eventually throughout the game you will unlock new weapons: hammers, staves, arrows, guns. Admittedly, the ammo for the projectile weapons feels a bit limited, and there's weirdly like 2 sets of projectiles. There's ones you can aim and ones you can't, so it feels a bit weird since you end up with a button that ends up doing nothing when you have one of those equipped. However, the game sort of disincentivizes using the weapons. Anything other than Jack's sword and his fist are fine. But as you use the other weapons, you'll eventually discover they have durability, and they kinda don't last all that long. Thankfully, you can repair them at the Samurai when you find him But thankfully, you can repair them from the Samurai when you find him at the various stages. When you find him at various points and stages, but it just feels a bit weird that you can't. I don't know. It just feels a bit weird since the weapons seem to break after 3 or 4 enemies at most. Which especially hurts considering that there are times throughout stages where you'll be, There are times throughout stages where you'll be locked into a room with 6, 7, 12, 20 different enemies they'll admittedly quickly die, but they end up chewing through the durability of each and every weapon that you have. But with all of that said, I just really wanted to get the word out about this game. It's not really a bad game. It honestly, it's okay, but it feels like it's just a few steps away from being something like really, really freaking awesome. And I hope that if this does sell well, this little preview, whatever you want to call it, because I've only maybe gone about halfway through the game at this point, if it maybe convinces you a little bit to at least pick it up and give it a shot. I mean, it's only $40. I mean, that might be a bit high if you're not a fan of Samurai Jack, but at the same time, it's a fun little game. It's nice seeing a lot of the characters remade. It's nice seeing a lot of the environments remade. The combat is pretty fun. It does have a few sore spots, but overall, yeah, I've been enjoying my little bit of time with it so far, and just kind of wanted to say, hey, go check this out.